Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. We are here with BSBA. My name is Dr. Danae Starks, and I am the Education Director for BSBA. Today, we've got some guests on. We wanted to come on this morning and just have some impromptu conversation about some recent events that are happening. One of which is we're going to be talking about Kirk Franklin and the incident with his son. And is it impacting his brand or is it not? Is it something that most parents would have done? Most parents may have responded that way, or is it something that, maybe you would have responded differently? So today we have several guests with us, and we're going to just have a good time in this conversation today. Of course, we're going to hear different perspectives. You are more than welcome to jump in and comment in the chat. We'd love for the community to engage with us. So come on live right now. We're live streaming on Facebook, and we want you to share this stream. And so on this morning, we have several guests that are with us. We have Pastor Currington. Of course, we have our president, Miss Selena Pryor. We have Dr. Lenore. We have Mr. Ken on, and we also have Miss Lena Doyle, our Director of Operations today. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
And what I want to do is go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves according to how you are on my screen. So I will start with Dr. Lenore Tate.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Lenore Tate. I'm so glad to be here. I'm a licensed psychologist. I've been around here in California for about 30 years as a psychologist. I practice neuropsychology in particular, but I also run anger management programs throughout the state of California, domestic violence programs, and work with people in trauma and, of course, with our community.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, because we need it. Pastor Ricky Currington.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pastor Ricky L. Currington, the pastor of the Pearly Gate Church of God in Christ in the city of Stockton, California. I've been in ministry for 41 years now, pastoring for 10, and I have 4 children, a 40-year-old.
John Wesley Greathouse.
Ooh, let me turn this phone off.
We live, John Wesley Greathouse. We live. It's my turn. It's my time.
I have 3 daughters and 1 son. The oldest daughter is 40. Next daughter is 34. My son is 31. And my youngest daughter is 21. So I'm happy to be here to discuss this situation with all of you. And we're going to get some great perspectives from everyone, I'm sure.
We sure are. And I'm excited. Lena, how about yourself? Come on and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lena Doyle, and I am here at the BSBA headquarters, and I am excited to get into this topic this morning.
And Miss Selena Pryor.
I'm Selena. I'm the president of BSBA. I'm kind of scared. I let Lena talk me into doing this, so this is going to be fun. I'm excited.
This is going to be fun. And I just want to say that Alina and Pastor Currington got these outdoor backgrounds that they look fake. They're real, y'all. They are really real.
Beautiful.
That is the real background.
Real.
So grab your coffee. This is coffee and conversation. Grab your tea. Put something in a coffee cup. I don't care if it's water or what have you. But get something in the coffee cup and come on and join this conversation on this morning. I am not a morning person, so we definitely got to have some fun with this. That is my goal this morning as I drink my coffee with my extra shot in it this morning to wake myself up.
Make sure we say good morning to our viewers.
Good morning to everyone in Facebook land and beyond. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We just want to come in here and have a good time. So everybody's talking about this. Everybody's talking about Kirk Franklin cussing out his son. Now, I don't know how many of you all heard the actual clip, because that's all that was played was a clip of the conversation. You heard it. Okay, so Pastor, what was your initial thoughts?
My initial thought was that his son did not play the whole video. He just played certain parts to discriminate or to make his dad look bad.
Yep, that's true. Who else heard it?
I heard it.
What did you think, Doctor?
Well, I had a mixed emotions, but I guess the short story, this was my visceral first response, was that Kirk Franklin's making money off of Jesus. And that was my first response. And I was not surprised, but I was just taken aback about his emotionally charged words.
Mhm.
So we'll just start with that because I know we're going to get into it later on.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good way to say that. Emotionally charged
words.
words. Some people call them choice words. Some people call them non-Sunday school words.
Yeah, but and that's
We're
what
gonna
we're going to
add
talk
that to
about,
the
right?
list.
Because he's making his money. I say no disrespect. He's making his money off of Jesus. He's making his money because as an entertainer on religious music, and people seem to correlate that level of entertainment with his degree of religiosity. But I'm sure we're going to get into that later on.
I'm gonna get into that because I love these kinds of discussions. So I see Mr. Ken came on. We'll introduce him when he gets back in the studio. Alina and Selena, what do you guys think? Did you hear it?
I heard it. I think I sent it to Selena. Selena, was I the first one I sent it to you?
Yep. And I was like, what in the world did you send me this time?
I thought that was an example of an old school African American cuss out. I'm not gonna lie. I said, "Oh, he cussed his son out." Am I surprised? No. No, Kirkland always had a little ghetto in him. I'm not surprised. We'll get into that a little bit.
Kirkland. Did she call him Kirkland?
She called him Kirkland. I'm not a morning person either, so
you messing people's names up. I don't know if you're being shady or what. Let me.
I like it.
Maybe it's the coffee.
Franklin.
That's funny.
Franklin said, "I'll stomp on your head."
But I agree with you, Lorraine, because Lorraine put in the comments, making money off Jesus, but still human. Why do we expect more? That's what I was about to say. Why do we expect more, right? I mean, because we have our spiritual side, but we also have a natural side, right? And in that natural side, we can have those emotionally charged responses, that spew out. But also, we only heard that clip. So right. whatever the son's goal was, he only played that clip.
That's right.
He did not air the entire conversation. So I don't know that it's.
And he was laughing at the part that he recorded.
Yep, exactly. Well, now, I'm going to be honest. When I heard it, I laughed because I just love it when the Saints cuss. I'm going to be honest. I really do. I think it's so funny. I don't judge nobody. Do whatever you got. Because you don't know what happened. You don't know if this man beat on Kirk Franklin or try to beat his daddy up. I mean, you just don't know, and I come from old school. I mean, my parents, I don't think would cuss me out, but to this day, they would put some hands on me if something, if it came down to that, you know what I mean? So we don't know the full story.
As a parent of an adult child, now Jordan, my son is very well behaved. He's good. He's not a problem, but we have had some times where I've had to have some emotionally charged words and conversation. Miles too. Emotionally charged words.
You got Kirkland?
I went Kirk on him. Yeah.
Kirkland him?
All day. Yes. Nothing hits like a grown child that's not quite grown, but trying to tell you how to be grown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the conversation was between him and his son. We really
I don't think we need to know. Okay, see, that's my problem. My problem is I don't care what the conversation was. Because see, here's the backstory. Some of the backstory that I heard yesterday was that for years, I don't know how long years is, but for years, Franklin and his son have been in therapy. Okay. We also know that Kirk has issues.
He does.
Okay, now I'm not really, that's just alleged issues. But he has a lot of alleged issues And I'm just going to use the word demons that he's kept at bay through prayer and therapy. But I'm not sure how he came up, because also the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Okay. And I don't know. Let me just ask one other question to you all. And I don't know if this 30-some-odd-year-old son was raised in the Kirkland household with this wife that he's, these kids. I don't suspect so. So that's just kind of where I wanted to jump off.
My perspective, let me just say this.
Calling him Kirkland?
Kirkland!
Call him Kirkland.
So let me say this.
Hashtag Kirkland. Everybody put that on your social media.
For Kirkland? Kirkland. To me, because Kirk said that there was a therapist online present, right? So that made me think about, okay, maybe they have these counseling sessions, these therapy sessions, and it can get heated in therapy. So the son knew it was going to get heated, though. He had about 3, 4, 5 phones. So he knew that their conversations probably normally got heated. And there's some triggers, that was a trigger. The way he reacted was a trigger. So he didn't play what triggered it. He played the reaction. So I need the whole story.
Yep. Now let's welcome Mr. Nelson. Ken Nelson is on with us, and we want to hear from him. Kim, what are your thoughts about the whole? Well, first of all, introduce yourself, because you missed that part of the introductions. We missed getting you introduced this morning. So introduce yourself and then share with us your thoughts on the Kirk Franklin short audio.
He's praying.
Well, my name is Ken and I'm what?
Praying.
Oh, praying.
You took a moment of silence.
My audio,
had this conversation.
Right. My audio is horrible, but so I'm catching it in bits and pieces. But my name is Ken Nelson, and I am the vice president of NAACP here in Sacramento. And I've been in Sacramento since I guess Elk Grove since 2011, 12. So I'm from the Bay Area. I'm a transplant. But as far as Kirk, I didn't hear it, but I did have a conversation about it, and I have 3 grown sons, and and I can tell you, my oldest is 35, and we, as far as the son putting it out there in the public, that just suggests that there's issues in the household. But the reality is, it really is not our business, and the impact on his brand. Well, sometimes our personal, what happens in our household, you can't apologize for everything. This is my point. He's dealing with his son. I'd rather it been that than what happened with Marvin Gaye and his daddy. You know what I'm saying? Because it could be a lot. It could have been. Sound like it could be a lot worse. They have issues.
They did put them on notice.
They need to work them out. They need to work them out, and it's really not our business. And so his professional life, what he get out, the music he put out, the things that he does, I think personally, I think it makes it worse going out and apologizing. You just leave it. Hey, this is what's happening between me and my son, and we don't have all of the facts. We don't know what happened. We don't know that relationship. And so then to come out and to try and apologize in the public only creates more dynamics around it. Now people are interested. People want to know, and people getting them. So like I said, that's their business, and it should be left as their business. Yes, his son was wrong. Who knows what went on between them two? But it really is not our business. And the fact of the matter is, it shouldn't impact his brand. But if it does, if it if it does have an impact on, on his brand, hey, it could be worse.
Can I
Right.
just respond just real quick, Ken?
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's going to impact his brand because what happened to Kirk back in the day didn't impact his brand. He just got himself together. Strike
Right.
one, strike two. This is strike three.
Right.
He's not going to be out. He's just gone third base, but he's not going out. Okay. But can I make another point though? And maybe we can also talk about this because see, in our community, my issue is corporal punishment and potty mouth.
Yep.
Okay. So, when Ken even alluded to, it wasn't like Marvin Gaye and his dad, but Kirk threatened his son. Like, some of us often say, I brought you in this world and, I know how to take you out.
And my parents
Okay.
meant that.
Mine too.
Okay. All right.
In that order.
But,
Okay.
but I just kind of want to say that this is a broader context than Kirk. I mean, we have this plantation attitude of corporal punishment towards our children. Our children, Pastor, are supposed to be our blessings. And if we're raising them up in a blessed, nurturing environment, most of the time we don't have a bad seed.
You said something very significant right there. We don't know what type of environment he was raised in.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that his grandmother raised him. His parents did not.
Okay, well, right then and there at 8 years old, and moving forward, he's going to have a problem because he's, these are my words, the stepchild.
Okay,
he's going to feel neglected.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got a daddy who during those years, 20 years ago, was doing a whole lot of other things other than taking care and nurturing this boy child.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that right there is an equation for a challenged baby.
But check this out. Regardless to how he was raised, who raised him, what environment he was raised in, at some point as an adult, you must take responsibility for your own actions.
100.
Okay.
100.
Now, the fact that he is a gospel recording artist.
Oh, so you're talking about Kirk Franklin taking responsibilities for his actions.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Right. So he is, number one, a gospel recording artist. He's in the limelight.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody sees what he's doing, how he does it, and how he responds. Now, if that was one of us, that happened to one of me or my son, would nobody know about it?
Mm-hmm.
The family. But however, by the fact that he's in the limelight, he has to be more cognizant of what he does, what he says, because he don't know who's lurking around the paparazzi, taking pictures or listening or whatever the case may be. But now the other part of this is, now I'm gonna give you the pastoral aspect of this thing. If Kirkland says that he is saved, if he is naming the name of Jesus Christ, he is supposed to exhibit the characteristics of Christ.
But he's human.
He's human.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
I'm not finished. All of us are human, and none of us are perfect.
That's right.
Doesn't matter how long you've been saved, how much, if you're filled with the Holy Ghost. I don't care what your status is in the church. All of us are a work in progress. However, if we depend on the power of God, which we say we do, then that element of the fruit of the Spirit called temperance should have pulled him into line, right? Now, there's sometimes when people push your buttons where you just lose it all, and this is what happened to him. He lost it, but God is a forgiving God.
That's right.
Okay, may I just respond to that just real quick? Mm-hmm. So Pastor Cunningham, I agree with what you're saying, but let me just share this with you.
We just tearing up names today. Could I say
That's all right. I've been called.
Pastor C. Is it a C? I tried to put my eyeglasses on so I can see Brother Pastor Ricky's name. Okay. All right. This is the coffee and
I'm
whatever
telling you,
show.
it's too early. It's too
Coffee
early.
conversation. Okay, so listen, I agree with what you're sharing.
Yes, sir.
But
Yes,
here's the other element. And I see this in our community. I see this, this has been around in our community for the last 20, 30 years, but it's actually been around since 1619.
Mm-hmm.
We call it in psychology, emotional intelligence, your EQ. Okay. It's the way you respond.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not just when you're triggered, but it's like your awareness, your ability, your ability to kind of get a grip, to have control of yourself. That's why we kill each other. That's why we have issues with a lot of other trauma in our community, because we don't even have the self-control. So what you're talking about, I'll just say, Pastor Ricky, is the whole fact that Kirk did not have control of his tongue.
He did not.
When he was, I don't care if he was manipulated, I don't care what the backstory is or was. This man was not able to emotionally regulate in a time of crisis, in a time of how he was triggered, his emotions, and his tongue got the best of him. So see, I don't care about the son blasting him on social media. My issue is that this man of God allegedly didn't have the self-regulation, the emotional awareness, and the emotional control to control himself. And he went so far as to threaten to kill him.
My thought is, it's probably happened before, right? I mean, this is probably just the one that he aired, but I'm sure his daddy threatened to kill him several times. And I don't think any of us ever really fully engage in self-regulation 100% of the time. It's just like Pastor Currington said, our stuff doesn't get aired. And then if it does, it's like, oh, that's just Danae. That's just Selena. That's just, it's like brushed off. But when it's like somebody famous, quote unquote, it's like a big deal, especially if they're saying that they're Christian. But, we can't discredit him or discredit his walk with Christ because he threatened to kill his son. I mean, that doesn't mean that he's not saved. That doesn't mean that he's no longer in Christ. It doesn't mean any of those things. It's not an alleged thing because we don't really know his heart and what his relationship with Christ is.
But you see, it's not it's what he said.
I get it.
Okay, so what he said. And so we're not saying, nor am I saying that he doesn't have that relationship with Christ, because we're all vulnerable. Okay. But what I am saying with Kirk and in a larger context of our community, okay, is that, we have to be taught, and Kirk mentioned, going to therapy, but if we didn't, and we know some of Kirk's background, okay? So if he didn't learn how to regulate his emotions growing up, and from his past behavior, he has problems with emotional regulation, we'll call it low impulse control. Okay, I want what I want when I want it. That has been his MO by his behavior, right? Okay. All right. But how are you using it, Selena? Okay. He was using it with drugs and pornography in the past, allegedly.
I'm not doing that.
Okay, allegedly. But his tongue has still followed him. All right. And so I'm not discounting his brand. I'm not discounting his followers. I don't care about what the backstory is. What we're just looking at is just the man. Okay, and what skills he needs to learn in order to do better.
Yeah, that's good. And the good thing is that we're all still a work. We're all a work in God outside. I mean, we're just a work, and God's not going to give up on us just because we have our impulsive moments here and there. And I personally don't believe it impacted his brand, but I do want to we got the bishop on with us this morning. We are just so blessed today. We got Bishop Ray Kemp in the house on this live.
I'm not a bishop. I am not a bishop.
You don't get it now.
That's
Don't
my
do
VP.
it.
We about to get it now. So, Ray, why don't you introduce yourself and share your thoughts on this whole Kirk Franklin business?
So I thank you for having me on. Sorry I got on late. I just received the text message. But my name is Raymond Kemp, and I'm the owner and chief design engineer of Kemp Design Systems, which is a tech company here in Sacramento.
And my VP.
And the VP of the Small Black Business Association of California, which, by the way, is making some great strides and getting some great feedback in the street. So
Amen.
I am definitely happy
Amen.
to be a part of that. There was a lot to unpack, but I was listening to the conversations that you were all having, and I think for the most part, we're on point. But what I would say, I think a lot of people are missing is that Kirk, although that was his son, was talking to a grown 33-year-old man. And you have to keep that in context, because what I hear Dr. Lenore Tate saying is true, but I think it's not contextually accurate, only because that is a man. And I think that it sounded like to me that people are dismissing the trauma that could have been pushed to Kurt's way. We don't know what Kurt is getting from maybe the mother of this kid. We don't know how much financially Kurt has poured into this kid. And here's the other thing. Only people you love can push your buttons to the point where you will say the things that he said and do the things that he does. And again, I looked at that in context because some people were saying to me, we shouldn't talk to our kids that way. And I agree. I have a 7-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I don't talk to them that way. But that was a grown man, and we have to keep that in context because, I'll use a word from, psychology. Our axiology is that we like to be liked, and it's proven in the fact that his son decided to put this conversation out on the internet, thinking he was going to get like points.
He did get like points.
Did he get enough to make money?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is he thought that people were going to hold him up and dismiss his father.
Yep.
And the problem with that is they're both crying out. Dr. Tate talked about Kurt's previous issues. They may be still unresolved.
Sure.
So because he, talked the way he did to his son, when somebody is experiencing trauma, there is no playbook. And so we are talking about the abuse toward the son, but that 33-year-old man could absolutely be abusing his father. And to the point where Kirk, who probably gave him a couple of $100,000, Kirk is still the breadwinner. And he probably gave him money just to have a relationship, kind of, push him off, but he's still disrespectful. Right. And to the point, me being a father, if my oldest son, Justin, were saying those things to me, I probably would have hung up sooner, only because I know that exchange that Kirk Franklin had would have been me.
See, I like that, Ray. Let me just, you see, that's what a grown man does. A grown man will hang up and be silent. I mean, sometimes you can cuss a person out without saying one word.
True.
Okay, so that means that you've got the control, I call it the self-control of your emotions and the wisdom to know better. And so you're just gonna say nothing. You don't have to respond.
And because I don't respond, it will send a message to my son that I probably don't want to be around him for the next week.
Probably shouldn't be.
And so, for me, because and so Kurt's vice might have been his mouth, but me, I'm a little more I use my mind, and I could get you. I could cut you off. I'll cut your money off. I'll cut your phone off if I'm paying for it.
Daddy, please, Daddy. I'm sorry, Daddy.
I'm that guy because I don't want to hurt him. He's my son. I don't want to physically hurt him. And you could tell that Kirk it probably would have been a fist fight.
Yeah.
If it had gone far. Now, in regards to his brand, I'll say this. This isn't the first time that someone who was in the public eye went off on their kid. The host of the Match Game went off on his daughter about 10 years ago, and it was all over Good Morning America. But he was a white man. I think where Kirk might have to worry about is, will he be on the Grammys? Will he be on the AMAs if he puts out another record? I think in the Black community, I think there will be a level of empathy because we understand where we come from as a generation, whereas you don't talk to your parents like that. You'll get hit in the mouth, all those things. So I think there'll be some empathy, but I think if Kirk is smart, if I was Kirk Franklin and I had a studio and I'm writing a song about it, and I'm gonna take samples of that phone call and put it in the song, and then write a song called Everyday Trauma.
Okay, I love it.
And put a video out. And so that way, when people ask me about what was happening to my son, well, here's the video. So now we can talk about it on my terms.
Exactly.
I like that.
I like I do like that he actually apologized. He didn't have to, but I like that he took responsibility for it. And one thing about Kirk Franklin that I think we can all agree, he's never been secretive about his life like that. Never held himself way up here. He's never done that. He's always been, I am a sinner saved by grace. I am human. Everybody has a bad day.
I think that we act like that just because we go to church, that these things won't happen. I'm a Bible reader.
We're not exempt from problems in life.
Right. We don't talk about it. It's not. We don't talk about it.
Right.
Learn it from being little. What happens in this house stays in this house, and we don't talk about these kind of things. And that's what I think has kind of been damaging to us as a community.
Yeah, Dr. Tate, I have a question for you. In your professional background, would you say that his son may have some separation issues?
I can't say that because I don't know what separation issues, I don't know how he was raised. Okay. I don't know anything about the son other than I just heard that he was raised by his grandmom. And so, what kind of, if he's raised by his grandmother, I think he might have abandonment issues. Okay. Because, I don't know about separation, but I think that maybe he's got abandonment issues because let me tell you something, if I wasn't raised in that Kirkland household, in that mansion, okay, getting what I want, when I want, and how I want it, I would have a little problem. I would feel jealous. I would feel resentful. I would have some of those little sins going on with me, okay, because I'm only half of. I'm not a total part of. So, in that sense, I would just call that abandonment.
Okay.
And you know what? Let me say this about one other little thing that just came across my mind. And that is, we all want to be loved. Okay. We all, Black men, oh my Lord, y'all need to be loved. You all want that daddy. You wanted him at 7 and 8 and 10 and 12, 15 and 20. You wanted him. I don't care if that's the symbol. You wanted that man. But I don't know if Kirk was around. Okay, so that just breeds a sense of loss, and that loss is also breeding a sense of resentment because so that's all. I just wanted to say that I think that boy, that young man, that 30-year-old grown man, he has problems, but he's sad.
Now, can we talk about his brand though? Does anybody think that his brand is going to be hurt by this, or will it be like
I don't.
Like the pastor?
Tomorrow, I'm buying it.
I think,
Say that
Well,
again,
it
Selena.
just
We
really
couldn't
helped
hear
to
you.
improve his record sales and things like that. But as far as, like I personally believe that, when his prior issues, when he discussed his prior concerns about pornography and things like that, I think more of his followers cared about that than care about this. Because a lot of people at that time were like, oh, I'm not supporting him. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this concerning Kirk Franklin because he's got pornography issues and drug issues, which a lot of people have, right? But they tried to write him off. This time, I think it just resonates differently. Like, he put his son in check. Why should I penalize him? You know what I mean? Why should I judge him, kind of thing? That's him and his son, or like Ray said, him and a grown man. So what are you all's thoughts?
I don't think this brand's going to be affected at all.
Neither do I.
If anything, I think he's going to get more. What's the word? He's going to get more notoriety, if you will, or he's going to blow up some more. Yep. He's not going away.
Yes.
In psychology, they talk about good news is one thing, but bad news goes faster. You can do you can do 1,000 good things, but if you do one thing that's negative or bad, that just goes out to the community like wildfire. So this just impacts his brand in terms of, I think, a positive way, because it's bringing him out.
Yeah,
I think it's a fine line.
It's like a PR campaign.
I think
not only that, he used to average less than 1,000 comments on his Instagram page. Now that apology video has over 40,000 comments on it. Okay. And this year he did announce he is going on tour.
Okay.
Sell out.
That's a good look.
No, I think it's a fine line. I think, to church folks, he's probably going to be fine. But the commercial side of his brand, he's going to, because of the cancel culture, you have to look at the big picture. Because of the cancel culture, the Pepsis and the Coca-Colas and the people who might actually put the money behind this tour may bring him in the boardroom first. But I think ultimately when he goes on stage, when he goes on tour, again, he could talk about it on his terms. So that's going to be the strategy. Even though we all think he's going to be fine, there has to be some strategy behind it, because again, church is one thing, but corporate sponsors, whether it's Live Nation or whatever, they may have something to say, because they may not look at this the way we do. They may look at it as child abuse, even though he's a 30-year-old man. So I think it's a fine line.
I think if Snoop could come back from Gail, Kirkland could come back from this.
I think because Kirk Franklin also came back from the pornography thing, but the strategy was, let's go talk to Oprah.
Yep.
Well, he can go and talk to Dr. Phil, or he can come and talk to Dr. Tate.
That's right.
Let's go like that.
But even Snoop had a strategy. He went to the red table.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, he put himself in a place where he had to be contrite about his words. And so there still has to be a strategy. When you have a brand and into corporate America, not the church, but I look at the church too, but the corporate America, the people who are going to pay the money to subsidize your tour. Kirk did the right thing with the apology,
he had to.
So I think there's a fine line, now if I'm advising him, you got to get in the studio and you got to write a song, and I need you to chop up that voicemail or that tape and put it in the song, so people know exactly what you're talking about when you put this song out, pouring your heart out to people.
I like it. I'm buying it. I love it. I'm buying it. Whatever you put out tomorrow, I'm getting that.
Yep. And what about this?
Imagine how relatable that's going to be, though, for our community. Right. How how different individuals suffer some type of trauma at home or some type of loneliness. How a song like that can really resonate with the community.
And honestly, I'm thinking from like that, that trauma and kind of therapy perspective. I'm thinking like this. I have hope that this incident is going to cause them to come together. I think this is going to eventually cause them to have a good sit down with somebody, resolve their issues, and be able to restart and have a good relationship, you know, and maybe start over together, and then move forward in a healthy way, but also come out to the public, just like you came out to the public with the negative stuff, come out to the public with the positive side of the, you know, the forgiveness and, you know, us restarting and trying to have a relationship. Because I don't know if he had a relationship with his dad. I don't know. I never even heard of this son before. I've only heard of the other two kids. So, you know, that could be, like Dr. Tate said, like, we don't know the background or the upbringing, but if he was raised by his grandmother, that there's something there, right? There's probably something there. So if they reconnect, start a relationship, and have something on the positive side, I think that would be great. That would be a great turnaround. And if they go public, I can kind of see that happening. I really hope that happens. Actually, I have a lot of hope for that. So we'll see.
I see Iyanla Van Zant already thinking about her ratings.
That'll put her back on the air.
Exactly.
It's gonna be Iyanla, or in this case, it'll probably be TD Jakes.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that the other folks are comfortable with.
That's right.
And that'll give him some credibility. So I look for that interview.
Even if they don't have a kumbaya, Dr. Danae, my thought is just let's have some boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like Thanksgiving or New Year's, you know, or certain family reunions. You know, certain people are going to be a certain way. And, you know, we learn after about 20 or 30 times of knocking our heads in the wall that, you know, we just can't be around so-and-so all day, all night, that maybe we can only do 1 hour. Okay, for whatever that reason. So, you know, we just learn what your boundaries are, learn what your triggers are, so that, you know, you maintain your own safety, your to be emotionally safe.
Yep. Ken, you look like you got something to say.
Ken been waiting patiently.
I know, he's sitting there like this. He got something to say.
Come on, Ken.
No, you know, I'm listening, and you know it. But that look was, my thought was, I'm in contemplation, because I'm saying, why do we even care? You know, what's happening in his house with his child, in his personal development. And you know, we care because, like the pastor said, he's in the limelight, and you know, but why do we put people in these positions, in these places where we're spending time even concerned with Kirk Franklin and his issues, when we all have our issues in our own households that we have to contend with and that we have to deal with? And we, you know,
so we can get a break, Ken.
Sometimes
I'm just saying, because you're absolutely correct in that we, you know, look, you know, if it's me, I'm probably not gonna handle it that way. You know what I mean? With my sons, my kids, my relationship that I have with them. But I can tell you that there are times when things can, you know, where you have to put on, you know, you got to take everything you have not to cross over into that space where he was. You know what I mean? Because there are external factors sometimes, like you say, money and relationships with the mamas and all kinds of things that cause us to, you know, but we all have breaking points. You know, and it just sounds like he has some things that he has to work out with his son, because he's not a child. And the whole you know, I'm listening to everything, the cancel culture and people, that's just other people being in other people's business unnecessarily. In you know, most of the time is unnecessary. They just don't have enough of their own. They need to focus. We need to focus more on their own business and stay out of other people's business. But we don't, and that's where we are. And so my thought was, when I was listening, I'm just saying what my thought was. My brain was like, why do we even care enough to be, or maybe we care because he's a person. I get that. I'm just saying he has some issues that he needs to work out with his son at the end of the day, and he has some issues he got to work out within himself, and how he's going to actually go about doing that. You know, that's he need to get on his knees and ask God to give him that strength and the capacity to manage himself at the end of the day. That's what he needs, is the ability to manage himself, because that's the only thing he has control over is him and how he responds and react. And everybody's passing, you know, we all gonna have an idea, the concept, and the thought theory. And so like you said, it's a way for us to take a break and get away from the mundane. I get it. That was my thought. You read my face, but that was what I was thinking in that moment.
You know, one of the other,
face.
there was a comment in the queue here about one of the reasons why we're talking about this. It's not just Kirk. It's what's going on in our own houses, our own homes, and with us. Okay, so, you know, Kirk is on blast, but I mean, you know, I was listening to a radio show yesterday. They were talking about, you know, potty mouths. You know, like we are real quick with that sharp tongue to demean and degrade our babies or our people or our friends or our loved ones or our relatives, and regret oftentimes what we've said. And so I think that this is I think one of your listeners said this is like a teaching moment for all of us. It's like, so how do we get a grip, you know, on our tongue, on our behavior?
I think we can relate. I think that the reason that we're so wrapped into this is it's all selfish. It's we can relate, number one. Number two, someone that we think is special actually deals with some of the stuff that we deal with.
We all bleed.
And so I think that it's not so much being nosy. It's almost like self-reflection, like, oh, okay, Kirk has to deal with this too. He's a great songwriter and performer. Oh, okay, so if Kirk is going through it, then okay, I'm not that far off. Sometimes it's really a mental health exercise for some people. Like, oh, okay, I'm normal. I'm normal for yelling at my kids, even though it may not be the greatest idea. But Kirk do it, so okay, maybe we both need to go to therapy, you know, but we both need parenting classes. Sometimes it's just, you know, we grab on the stuff that we can just relate to. We're not going to even waste time with this if it's not something that we can relate to. And but I think we see ourselves in Kirk, maybe not with that dynamic, but we see ourselves in that, and I think that's why we're so interested.
And Pastor Currington, can I ask you this, because you are a pastor? Do you support therapy? Do you think that more of the saints should be in therapy?
I do, 100%, because that's one of the things that's hurting the church today, because of that old thing, what happens in this house stays in this house. That's why a lot of people are messed up right now, because they didn't have the voice, or they didn't have the ear to hear what was going on. And so they grow up in these situations, and they go from a child to adolescent to grown folks still dealing with these demons, if you will, that they've never had a chance to resolve. And we need therapy. Even I support it 100%. Now, I think that for us, the church is concerned, I saw somebody put in the comments that the church is very judgmental. Okay, that may be true, but society itself is judgmental.
That's right.
That's right.
Is judgmental. But we put a stigma on the church when someone that belongs to the church or gospel artist does something that is not favorable. Then they put a label on it and indict the whole body of Christ. That's not fair either. But I think, and I would hope that Kirk has a pastor or a spiritual leader that he can go to that he would get good counsel from, and to give him another path in which to righten this wrong that he's done. And as someone said, all of us have made mistakes. We're going to make mistakes sometime today, I'm sure. But, you know, and as I said earlier, God is a forgiving God. But however, when you're in the limelight, you are more susceptible to the criticism and the judgmentalness of society. Now, also in the spiritual aspect, if you look at the Word of God, and I'm not trying to get real churchy, but
we're not raising the offering today.
I won't be offering, but I'm just trying to put it into perspective. Okay, he used colorful language, as you said. Okay, well, Peter did too.
That's right.
He sure did.
Peter got angry and got out of character, took the sword from the Roman soldier and cut his ear off, and then in another part of scripture, he cursed. He used bad language. But yet still, God still used him in the book of Acts to preach that message that caused 3,000 souls to come to Christ. Likewise with us, God can use us in our impurities, but we have to have enough wherewithal to know where we're coming short and to ask God for forgiveness or ask God for help and to repent. And then God will still step up and use us. Kurt, as he did, made an apology. I didn't hear the apology, but I'm glad that he put that out there because that's going to help him, not only in his brand, but that's going to help him in his walk with God. It's going to help him in his dealings going forward. You know, but there's still some things that he's going to suffer because of it. Because this whole scenario, he's going to suffer. There's going to be some backlash concerning it.
Consequence.
And I like what Brother Nelson said, you know, that's his business. I really don't care. But the thing I care about is that it's attacking the body of Christ. Because there's those that's out there that see that and said, that's why I don't go to church. And, you know, Christ ain't nothing. No, you can't do that. That's what I hate. Even the scandal with that pastor that died in Atlanta, New Birth Church, all the scandal that was behind him. You can't indict the whole body of Christ because of one person's indiscretions. You know? So what we as the church should do is pray for Kirk and ask God to help him and to deliver him. Check this out. I guarantee you that many of us on this line right now have demons that are unresolved in our lives.
Yep.
And if we don't seek out the help that we need, we're just as bad as Kirk or anybody else.
Preach.
You gotta be honest enough with yourself to know that I need help in certain areas of my life and then seek out the right help. You got to go to the right person to get the help that you need.
That's right.
You and E flat, Doc. You and E flat. You better do that thing.
Where your church is? Where's your church at?
Pearly Gate, Church of God in Christ in Stockton, California. 2171 East 11th Street.
East 11th. Okay.
11.
It's true. I mean, when I first, now, you know, I'm a believer, I'm saved and all that stuff. When I first went to therapy and I told people I was in therapy, the saints was the worst judges of me going to therapy. They don't know why I'm going. They don't know what I'm dealing with. They just know that what you going to therapy for? We don't need no therapy and blah, blah, blah. My response to them was, would you rather deal with me in this state, or would you rather deal with me in a healed, a better responding state, right? Because all those years of not really having coping mechanisms didn't really do me well. And my responses probably to you weren't well, right? Because I didn't, you know, have those good strategies to respond very well. So I think that the saints need to have an open mind. Like Pastor said, if anybody needs therapy, it really is a lot of people within the church because of the backgrounds, the upbringings, the teachings, the different things that people came up understanding or came up knowing to be true, and then they were false. Or, you know, if you're brought up in a household where it's all abuse and you come to church and that's just what you do, or you're a hustler in the streets and you come to church and now you're a hustler in the church, it's affecting people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our behaviors affect people. They're called affected individuals. And so, I mean, it behooves us to get the help that we need, right? And sometimes it causes, and sometimes it's not just reading your word and fasting and praying and doing all those kinds of things, because the Bible also talks about faith without works is dead. So if I believe I can be a better person, I can't just stop at prayer, fasting, and certain other things. I have to take some other measures.
That's right.
You know, to be able to help myself. And there are Christian therapists out there. I mean, there's people to help, like you talked about Pastor T.D. Jakes and Bishop T.D. Jakes and different ones, church leaders that also can help kind of pull these things out and get us on a healthier path, you know, and so that our responses can be healthier even, you know. What'd you say, Selena?
I went to Kaiser.
Is that?
Well, let me, since you went to Kaiser, let me just say,
places.
Yeah, but let me also say this, just FYI to the listeners, and that is, if you have a job, most employers offer what they call an employee assistance program.
That's right.
Which are free services. You can get from 3 to 8 and keep on coming back. And you don't have to even pay for those. But I think one thing that Dr. Starks is mentioning is just that you don't have to, I'm going to just say it like this. You don't have to be crazy to go to a therapist. Most of us are going to therapy because there's a little piece that might be broken, a little piece that might be injured, a little piece that we just need to figure out the tools. And sometimes, you know, we talk to our friends, but you know what? Sometimes we don't need to use our friends to help us heal, because you can go to someone that's trained, that understands how to help put the pieces back together. There are pastoral counselors, there are Christian therapists, and there are therapists that run the gamut, that you can just go on Psychology Today. You can look to see if they're black, white, brown, yellow, what they specialize in, and if they're for you. If they won't give you a free session or at least talk to you for 10 or 15 minutes, go to somebody else. But we're out there.
Yep. And I will say, you know,
do you take patients, Dr. Lenore?
Of course I do. I'm 24/7 almost. Yes. And you know what?
Put your information in the chat so that if somebody wants to reach out to you, they have that information.
Yeah, so I run a private practice, and since COVID, I've been doing telehealth. But all they got to do is they can reach out to me. I fee for service. You can pay for it. You can use your insurance, or you can use the easy thing is just EAP and just get a quick little, 3 to 6 to 8 sessions.
Yep. And one thing Dr. Lenore said was, about going to people or going to your friends. Sometimes they can be biased, right? I know that if I'm amped up, I'm gonna go to Selena because she's gonna be on extra amped up, right? Her amp is gonna be 100 times greater than my amp, and we're gonna get some stuff done that day, right? If I go to Ray is gonna take a more philosophical, let's think this through, right? If I go to Pastor Currington, he's gonna be like, well, you're gonna get the gamut, but depending on what path you take. But
this is what I do.
We need some healthy paths.
That's what I do, and I think Selena can vouch for me. If I'm your friend and you share with me what you're having an issue, I'm going to lay aside our friendship and how I feel about you. I'm gonna tell you up front, I love you, but you're wrong.
Every time.
If you're wrong, and I'm going to walk it out, as they say in church, verse by verse, concept upon concept. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know, and I do that because I do love you. Some friends we got to stop using that word friends so loosely. Some of your friends are not really your friends.
That's right.
All right. And some of your friends like you in the state that you are in. They don't want you to get better.
That's right.
And you have to know that yourself and come to that realization. They're associates. They're not a real friend. Will tell you when you're wrong or right and still love you. Right. So, and then the other thing I wanted to piggyback on Dr. Stark was talking about the therapy. God is a healer, right? However, he has more than one way to heal you of whatever ails you. He can divinely heal you. He can.
Who's playing an organ?
Raymond.
That is not me.
Sit down.
That is not me. That is not me. I promise you, that's not me.
Because he preached that, but somebody really is playing an organ somewhere. I heard it. Did y'all hear this?
I knew Pastor Carrington was about to preach, so I gave him a little background music. Come on with it. Come on.
Y'all. This is coffee conversation. I can't.
Oh,
help
you guys are funny.
I can't help who I am. But he can divinely speak the word and you be healed, or he can send you to a therapist. He can send. It's just like in any physical ailment. God can heal the ailment, but if he decides to use the surgeon or a doctor or medication to heal you, so we have to use all the tools available to us.
So true. So true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I don't know what kind of time we have, but let's talk about this little biblical part in terms of Kirk Franklin and our people.
Mm-hmm.
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
I
I don't know if we want to go that. Pardon me?
I said a lot of times that's used out of context.
100%. And also, I don't even know if it's in the Bible. I was looking for it one day and I couldn't find it. But I just wanted to bring that up in the context. It's not in the Bible, is it?
Yeah.
No,
It is.
it's not like no. It's not.
The context, the contextual framework is taken out. But let me just say this.
It says beat him or he'll die.
And he won't die.
Or he won't,
That's what I meant.
die.
That's what I meant.
No, but here's the whole point.
That's why you can't call Selena, because she don't.
But I appreciate it because, oftentimes in the church and oftentimes with our people, with us as a people, we talk about, you got to beat the so-and-so out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't, and it could be verbal, it could be whatever, like Kirk cussing his son out. That doesn't help teach where we're going. You teach fear or you teach resentment, but you don't teach, excuse me, I have to use this psychological word, you don't teach positive behaviors or positive reinforcement. When you try to extinguish a bad behavior, you don't just cuss them out and spank them. You have to show them, you have to praise them for the good things they do. You got to praise them and show positive stuff, positive comments for the good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you're going to raise a kid up, you can't just knock them down for all the bad, but they've got to hear the positive. And you'll be less, and you'll be doing less spanking and beating.
I think a lot of times too, though, I'm glad we're having this conversation about mental health, because one of the things I think that we forget is that when we were freed as slaves, we were freed with no infrastructure. Mm-hmm. After years of trauma that were passed down from generation to generation, that still, you think about the things that our grandmother went through and now that we still do. Mm-hmm. Keeping molestation quiet in that family. We don't talk about that. Or all these other things that we carry. So a lot of times we were having this conversation about therapy. Sometimes we need therapy because we're carrying somebody else's trauma too.
Yes, secondary.
And so, people come.
Generational.
Yes, and people come and they confide in us, and we carrying that weight, our own weight, and now we're not able to be functional. Mm-hmm. And then, in terms of this whooping thing, we learned that from our slave masters. That's not how
Ray.
we didn't. That's not how we raised our kids. We didn't have to. One, because the mother of the group always had a way with the kids because the fathers were doing the work. So the women controlled the environment. The women ran things. They controlled the environment, and the men stayed away from trying to rear kids because they didn't know how, because the slave master was on them constantly. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that men can't do it now, but I'm just kind of giving you some contextual history that we weren't hitting our kids. We start taking on what the master would do to us to control us, and we pass that down to our kids. And we have to, I'm glad that we're having this conversation because that's one of the things that we have to rethink. We have to take that turn.
And dig this. If you go to other countries, you go to the Caribbean, you go to Mexico, you know what I'm saying? Latin America, you go to the continent, you're not going to find us being whipped. You're not going to find our children being whipped. That's the irony. That's that correlation between the slave mentality and the way we were treated here in America. But today, you go, and I've traveled all around the Caribbean, so I know what I'm talking about, and to Northern Africa. You don't find kids being whipped.
Yeah.
They're blessings.
To answer your initial question about the rod of correction, Proverbs 23:13, it says this: withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Verse 14, thou shalt beat him with the rod and shalt deliver his soul from hell. Now, does that mean that you take a stick and beat your child? No. It means that you sit down and you explain to your child the error of their ways. And if you need to take something from them as a punishment, you take their iPod.
So it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor.
Yes.
Well, is it?
It's a metaphor for it's a metaphor that sheep herders, when they herd sheep, they use that stick or that rod to keep them because sheep can't see. So they use, sheep are intelligent, but it keeps them all going the same way, everything. So it is a metaphor, but people hear rod, oh, let me go get a stick.
Right.
No, it's about correcting so you don't wander off and get yourself, and leave the pack. You stay with it.
So where did it come from that we had to get our own stick? Because
our grandparents
came from the slave master.
I was told a few times, go break your own stick off.
The wrong one until you make out to get a better one and twist them together.
Yeah. One thing that we didn't touch on, because this situation touches on a lot of things. One thing we didn't touch on is how the son, we know the son's been affected in some way. In society, just think of the women who always has to be the everything, the mom to these grown men. These grown men have these issues that they're still dealing with, that women have to pick up and kind of try to be their therapist and try to be their nurse and everything. So this son, it's not only trauma to his dad, just think of all of the trauma, what it's doing to his mental health when he's dealing with other relationships, dealing with his own personal relationship. I don't know if he had kids. It's going to affect the way his kids are being raised. It's going to affect the way he's treating his lady, his family. It's going to affect his mental health. So it's a domino effect.
But that's what Ray was talking about in terms of generational trauma.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Ray brought that up. And so it's right, but he doesn't have the tools. So it's going to impact his whole family. I mean, generationally, his kids, his wife. But that's why we unfortunately see family violence. Okay, I don't care what the trigger is. This young man hasn't learned and doesn't have the tools he needs to totally be, not even totally, but to be over 50% equipped emotionally to be able to stand and lead his family. How about that?
Right.
To be the head of his family.
And I know Lorraine's on here. So Lorraine, I know with you, with the BYLP students and the young men that you come across and the trauma that they are dealing with in their home, I know she's doing a good job with trying to, show them love and love on them. So we just have to remember to keep doing that in our community, even if it's not our own kids. We just have to love on these kids and our people.
Yeah. It takes a village to raise a child. And in this day and time, I have a lot of godchildren, boys and girls, and I try to be as active as I'm allowed to be. Lives, especially the young men and the young ladies as well, because some of them did not have a father in the home. And so sometimes the godfather or the pastor or someone at the school is that father figure for them. And so we just have to make sure that if we are that father figure, that we're doing what is appropriate and that we don't cross the line because we're not actually their father, but we can give them some insight as to how they should be living, give them some advice as to where they should go, how they should act, and especially our young men in terms of how they treat other women, because that is one thing that is very prevalent in our society today, that men don't treat women like they should, and that comes back from where they were raised in their own home, or what environment they were raised in and what they saw. And so my thing now is with young men, and I tell my son this all the time. You treat your wife, my son is married. I say, you treat your wife as if that's you, because when you become married, you're no longer twain, you're one. And if you're going to talk about negatively about your wife, you're actually talking about yourself, because you engaged yourself or tied yourself with this woman through marriage. And so we as men have to show our sons from infancy up until they get grown how a woman should be treated. Because if you look at the scriptures, Dr. Danae, the Bible says that whoso findeth a wife find the good thing, and they start right there. They stop there, but they don't go to the next verse that says, and obtain a favor of the Lord. We wear the favor of our wives. Come on.
Where's the organ, Lena? We need the organ.
Because he's your preacher. You better preach, sir.
And
I was listening for it.
If you disrespect your favor, you're doing yourself a disservice. So I'm teaching the young men that I have that is in my life how to treat their girlfriend that will probably be their wives, and I can say my wife don't want for nothing. She haven't pumped gas in 26 years.
Ooh, come with it.
Seriously, she don't pump gas.
How many sons have you raised?
One, and I have a couple of sons. But
I think it's
because but Brother Ray, I hate to go to the gas station and see a young lady
Yes,
in
sir.
the driver's seat and this joker in the passenger seat.
Oh, yes.
playing with his phone.
Pay for the gas. They got to pump the gas herself. That don't make any sense.
Somebody's paying some offering.
Who do I make this check out to?
Right. What's your cash app?
No, but that's like old school. I mean, that's old school, and I, that's also treating a woman that's in your home the way you want her to be treated by another man. So because I just remember my grandfather, he would always, no matter where the gas is, 50%, or if it's 50%, he's going to the gas station, changing the oil, making sure that the women in the house were protected. This was just another form of protection.
Right.
Okay. And that's another skill, Pastor. That's another skill that we lost, that can be taught by our young men to our young men.
You have to live it.
Yeah.
You have to live it. I have two boys, and it is imperative. It is pressed upon me how they see I treat their mother. And if me and their mother come together and we're always snapping at each other, then they're going to pick up on that. Sometimes you don't have to say nothing. Sometimes kids, my father always, I used to snicker at my parents because my pops would come and kiss my mom on the neck. And I'm like, ooh, and I giggle at that. And I said, I saw you. And my dad said, you saw what I wanted you to see.
All right.
That's what he used to tell me.
Oh,
and so,
that's beautiful. Yeah.
And so the things that I do in front of my kids is because I want them to see. I want them to see me and their mother cracking jokes. I want them to see, the passion and the hugging and the love tapping.
Love, that's love. That's love in action.
Right. They need to know, again, it's not about me, doing anything inappropriate in front of them, but they need to know. And sometimes they pick up on the cues better if there's no words in.
Right.
They don't need to see me, this is how you treat your woman. No, because I can take her in a room and we'd be slapping and slap boxing each other. So it's It's what you do. These are these kids now, you know, it's not so they don't even pay attention to people who don't got it. You know, you start talking about wealth building, you don't have wealth. You're talking about great relationship. Well, your relationship with your wife is horrible. It's what we, but when I see my mom and dad, they're always giggling. They're always hugged up, you know, dad always bringing mom something home, even if it's not her birthday, you know, those stuff. And so when they grow older, it's like, yo, pops always, you know, took care of moms, took her car to get washed and filled up the tank. So she, you know, all that stuff. And when he's with her, that's his job to make sure that she don't get out the car. He's 14.
Right.
If you could play PS5, you could pump gas.
That's right.
And so
right.
Those are the things. You don't have a job. I always tell them you don't have a job. Your job is to take care of your mom when I'm at work. Clean your room, you know, those other responsibilities. And when I'm around, you know, you do what you're supposed to do. But it's about what we show them, I think, more so than what we tell them. Because you have to be consistent. It has to be in you. And the spirit in your house has to be that too. It can't just, you know, you can't have a abusive spirit in your house because your kids are going to take that to school and it just festers. It goes everywhere. So you definitely, as the father, you know, we always want to take charge. I'm the head of the house to do it. Well, you have to do that. You have to stand in your place.
That's right.
Yes. Yes.
We got about 9 minutes left. And Selena, you had something?
I love dialogue, and I love how you guys are talking about how a man is supposed to behave towards a woman and just govern themselves, you know, just in everyday life. Because what we see in the media of what Black men are is not this.
That's right.
And I think it's very important that you know, we start having these conversations and showing people that, you know, what you're seeing in the media, portrayed in the media, what you see, how a Black man is being portrayed is not the norm. Men are taking care of their kids. They're taking great care of their kids and their wives. And they are sensitive to the fact that there are some things going on. And again, because someone has a bad day, doesn't make them a bad person just in life in general. And you know, I think it's very important. I mean, I would venture to say, if we were to have Kirk Franklin on a Coffee and Conversations, the conversation would probably be more like what we're talking about now. I think he just had a bad day.
Quite possibly.
I think he didn't have the skills to do any better.
Yeah.
I agree with Dr. Lenore.
Well, if he's been in therapy like that, like them posts been saying, he should have had.
Well, it depends on who he went to, because you know you got to get the right therapist.
I mean, you do, but you got to accept it as well. You know, I know from, you know, me personally going to the therapy, I didn't accept it at first. You know, so I don't know his situation, but I know that going to therapy is already tough enough. And then to get there and have somebody try to tell you something at first because you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to trust this person. You're trying to, you know, you're in the right place, but you don't know that you're in the right place. You know, you're just, so there's so many things that.
But you know, Dr. Starks, it was just like, I don't know, one of the brothers here on this panel was talking about, I mean, like, you know, the power is in the word and in the behavior. And we need more conversations with the Black men's corner, you know, who are able to reach out and just give the brothers some nuggets, give the sisters nuggets who are raising boys by themselves, who don't have the uncle dads around, okay? You know, because it's important. It's important. And it goes back to Kirk Franklin and his son. You know, we don't know their history. We don't know if dad was around. But we do know that there's a lot of pain and a significant amount of hurt. And there's a lack of tools, emotional tools, if you will, in order for both of them to be lifted, to figure out what's healthy. And even if they can't mend.
Mm-hmm. We got about 6 minutes left. Ken, we would love to hear some final thoughts from you.
Well,
Yep.
Calling all Kens. Calling all Kens. Ken. Ken.
well, thank you for Selena, thank you for inviting me. This was a very enlightening conversation. I should, get to hear some perspectives, some different perspectives. Everything I heard today, I thought was it was useful. I'll put it that way. It was useful just hearing the various perspectives on different things, and not so much about Kirk, but just about who we are as a people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. We, from the biblical perspective, yes, we all have sinned and fallen short, and we all have our issues, and even our thoughts on spare the rod, spoil the child. So it was just it was a very good, delightful conversation, and just although I'm working and I'm kind of going back and forth, but just listening to it was edifying, just to my own self. I have boys, and I do understand what it means to raise a young man to respect a young lady, and and to have to push back. And I've, the fact that I can be proud of them, and can say I've never had to put my hands on them because of, the strategy in development, in that being just trying to be that better person and trying to be that father. And the fact that so many of us, especially Black men who are raising our sons to be men, we got a lot of, and women having to raise, hearing that conversation about women having to raise sons, and and how that impacts our community as a whole. And so just listening to the different conversations just caused me to think about a lot of those things that impact our global community, and the work that we have ahead of us in trying to reshape that dynamic that has plagued our community as a whole. And so so it was a good, while you might call it a getaway from our norms, it was enlightening to for me in that area. So thank you for the invite.
Thank you for being here. Bishop Kemp dropped so many historical nuggets on us today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking us back to slavery times and telling us about ourselves as a result of that time, and dropping those nuggets about the sheep and all that stuff. What final thoughts do you have, Ray?
I'm just happy to be a part of the conversation. The BSBA is always taking the lead since of inception now, which has been about a year. So congratulations to that. Being on a conversation with such esteemed people, Pastor Ricky, Dr. Lenore Tate, Brother Ken, Dr. Stocks, it's my sister, y'all, and Miss Lena. But it's important, I think, that we continue to have these conversations so that our community can be affected, because people are watching. So we might as well give them something that's not twerking, not demeaning of our people, that's only lifting us up, or maybe even pointing them toward resources. We had a conversation about mental health, so now people may call BSBA and ask about resources, and we have one with Dr. Tate. So it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you, Pastor Farrington. Make appointments. Pastor Tate's information is in the comment section, so we'll put it in again. So for those, a little bit higher up.
You got her, Pastor Tate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Franklin, you done got promoted.
Got an elevation.
I was I was looking at Pastor Currington's title and looking at Pastor Tate's name. I mean, Dr. Tate's name.
That's okay. I'll take it.
There's a church.
I'm always a humble servant. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pastor Currington, final thoughts?
Just grateful to be on this conversation with all of you great people today, and I've learned some things, and I'm very much welcome to have more conversations on these lines or whatever the topic may be. And the bottom line is, as far as Kirk Franklin is concerned, let us just pray for him. That's what he needs. He needs our prayer, and let us be a resource to the other people that we come in contact with that are having some same issues on a lower level, and that's not, out there in the big screen or whatever. Let us be a resource, and let us find ourselves not being judgmental ourselves about people having issues. We always got to consider ourselves. If we were found this, we want someone to be merciful and kind to us. So let us do the same likewise to them. So thank you for having me this morning. Thank you, Selena and BSBA. I appreciate the invite. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Tate, final thoughts?
Well, again, I am just so happy to be here. I'm going to tell you that the synergy with all of us has been really, really strong. And I guess I'm just going to end by saying we can all use certain stumbling blocks in life as stepping stones.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of my motto. Use a stumbling block as a stepping stone, and that we're all fragile. Okay, we are all fragile human beings, and we do the best we can oftentimes with what we've got.
Right.
And so I think this has been another teaching moment, and I just hope that we'll all take away, learn, do some self-reflection, if you will, on how we can be better as individuals, better as family members, and better within our community.
That's right. Alina, Selena, you guys got any final thoughts?
I loved it. I loved everybody on here. Thank you. Next time I feel like going a little Kirkland on my son, I'm gonna come back to this moment and I'm gonna say, how can I do better? What can
we'll be potty mouth in recovery.
I'm not gonna quite go all full fledged Kirkland because he went full fledged.
He went full fledged.
Little plies. But no, we just have to really just pray for, his family, pray for everyone on here, our whole community. We definitely will be doing more of these discussions. I think this is important for our community to kind of open up that gate and that conversation. And let's not stop here. So I hope to see some of you on the panel again for our future coffee and conversations. Thank you.
Selena?
I just want to thank everybody for showing up today. This was kind of a last minute thing. Lena said, hey, let's do something tomorrow. And I'm like,
it was supposed to be 20 minutes.
It was supposed to be 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a 20-minute conversation, but
This is good.
we do believe in being, being flexible. And, this is an important topic. I want to thank Miss Carolyn because I called her at 8:00 and asked her to come on. And she said, girl, no, you call Dr. Tate. And so I just want to thank her for suggesting that because Dr. Tate, you were absolutely, I know you and I know what you're about and how you do things, but you were fabulous and just brought so much to the conversation. Thank you, Ken. I think I asked him at midnight, and thank you, Uncle Dad.
Ken's still asleep.
Right. But I just want to thank everybody for lending their perspective to this very important conversation, and we have to get to work now. We got work to do, y'all.
Yes.
Phones
We absolutely do.
I'm working right now.
Well, thank you all for being here with us again. This was such a great conversation, and join us for more coffee and conversations. Everybody out there in Facebook land, take this video and share it. Share it with somebody, share it on your platforms, share it to your groups. This was just such a wealth of information with some specialists out there in the field and just some people that are just part of the community want to have a talk about, relevant things that are going on. So I don't know what the topic will be on the next one, but it'll be something good because we know y'all like a good little discussion about something, right? So we will join us next time. Follow us at Black Small Business Association of California on Facebook. You can go to our website and stay up to date, www.bsba-ca.org. You can sign up to subscribe to the email list there where you can get some newsletters and stay up to date that way. You can also text BSBA to 916-299-7829. Got it right this time, right, Lena?
Got it right.
Got it right. 916-299-7829. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to the community, and happy Tuesday.
Wait. You know we got to end with this.
You ain't heard nothing.
Shout out to Kirk Franklin.
Out.
And your
I'm
son.
supporting
You are in our
you.
prayers.
Oh my gosh.